Hello, my name is Rachel Lovett. I'm the curator and assistant director at the historic Hammond-Harwood House Museum in downtown Annapolis, Maryland. While the museum is currently closed due to COVID-19, we're bringing you a series of research that we're working on. And in this video, you'll learn about the benefits of copper. If you've ever been inside the historic Hammond-Harwood House kitchen, you might have seen the extensive collection of kitchen implements, including the copper items that glisten above the venerable old hearth. These items might make an artistic picture, however, there are more benefits to them than just meet the eye. Copper has long been admired for its beauty and has a variety of uses, including jewelry, makeup, and building material. In the Renaissance, painters like Leonardo DaVinci used copper as a canvas, and in 18th century America, artists like Boston-based John Singleton Copley produced miniatures on copper, which he called portraits in little. In this post, you will learn about the intersection of decorative arts and health, and why the materials you surround yourself with matters now more than ever. If you have ever seen the 1987 romantic comedy Moonstruck starring Cher, you may remember that her father, Cosmo Castorini, played by Vincent Gardenia, was a highly successful plumber in New York City and advocated for the use of copper pipes. In his famous line, he said, "There are three kinds of pipes. There's what you have, aluminum, which is garbage, and you can see where that's gotten you. There's bronze, which is pretty good unless something goes wrong, and something always goes wrong. And then there's something like copper, which is the only pipe I use. It costs money. It costs money because it saves money. There are more than three kinds of pipes, and it is pretty clear that Mr. Castorini's advice is financially motivated, yet copper is worth exploring. Copper has been used since ancient times for health benefits, specifically for its sanitizing properties. While ancient Egyptian, Chinese, and Phoenician cultures did not have scientific articles to promote their findings, all recognized that this metal had some healing properties that couldn't be ignored. Some cultures even created special names for this metal, like the Egyptians who used the Ankh symbol in hieroglyphics to represent copper, which meant eternal life. Copper was used for the treatment of diseases and for durable water pipes in ancient Egypt. Examples of the pipes dating to 2750 BC can be found at the Berlin State Museum in Germany. The majority of copper in the ancient world came from Cyprus, which is where the Romans got the name cuprum, which later was modified to copper. Although copper's special properties were known to the ancients, it was the French physician Victor Burke who first analyzed the medicinal benefits in the modern era. He observed that metalsmiths who worked with copper fared pretty well during the cholera outbreaks in Paris of 1832, 1849, 1852, and 1868. Likewise, workers in the nearby pottery town were protected due to working with copper-rich clay. His research, presented in 1867, found that close contact with copper essentially sanitized their workplace and hands. So why does this matter today? These days, there's a lot of concern about surface contamination by COVID-19. Copper self-sterilizes continuously. When a microbe, like a virus, lands on copper surfaces, the metal releases an electrically charged ion that blasts the microbe, inactivating it or killing it. Depending on the virus, this can occur within a few minutes or hours. According to a recent study by the New England Journal of Medicine, the COVID-19 virus dies within 4 hours on copper, compared to surfaces like plastic and steel, on which the virus can linger up to a day or more. According to Jim Morrison's April 14, 2020 article in Smithsonian Magazine, Dr. Bill Keevil, a microbiology researcher at the University of Southampton and an expert on antibacterial properties of copper for more than 2 decades, found that MERS and swine flu just blew apart when samples were in contact with copper. The same article focused on the work of Dr. Michael Schmidt, a professor of microbiology and immunology at the Medical University of South Carolina, who researches coppers in hospitals, particularly on beds. His recent 2-year study showed that copper, while costly in the short term, would save lives and money long term. This study found that plastic bed rails had an over 90% risk of bacterial spread compared to just 9% with copper. And so here, let's discuss copper at the Hammond-Harwood House. In the years leading up to and during the Industrial Revolution, copper was used in abundance. In older homes, like the Hammond-Harwood House, you can still find brass doorknobs and keyholes, which are 67% copper and 33% zinc. During the 20th century, this metal fell out of favor and was replaced with cheaper options like plastic and steel. Even after copper tarnishes, it continues to have the same sanitizing properties, although the aesthetic appeal has changed. Almost every doorknob at the Hammond-Harwood House is brass, which works to self-sanitize viruses 24/7 within a much shorter time frame than other materials. In addition to the doorknobs, the Hammond-Harwood House also has a variety of copper and brass items within the collection. Roughly a quarter of the museum's 200-plus kitchen artifacts are brass or copper. In the 18th and 19th century, cooking with these materials would have provided a safer antibacterial, antiviral environment. While the properties of copper may have not been known to the people of the time, copper likely saved many lives, and some of us would not be here if our ancestors had opted for different cooking materials. The collection of andirons at the museum is almost entirely brass. While none of the fireplaces at the house currently operate, in past times the brass andirons would have provided a more germ-free environment to those cleaning them. The same goes for 17th century lantern clock, which is in our entryway. Bedding in early America was a constant struggle with pests, poor mattress quality, and crowding. The 2 copper bed warmers at the museum would not have only provided comfort, but they would have helped with sanitizing. Likewise, our extensive collection of candle holders, mainly made of brass and copper, also aided in eliminating the transmission of bacteria and viruses by object contamination. In the gentleman's study at the museum, we have what we believe are the tools of our architect, William Buckland, which are made of brass and can be seen here in the image of Charles Willson Peale's portrait of architect William Buckland. From the back of the Hammond-Harwood House, there is a clear view of the Naval Academy Chapel, which was dedicated on May 8, 1908. It would have been there for 16 years before the last private resident of the Hammond-Harwood House, Hester Harwood, passed away in 1924. For our visitors and staff, the view of the chapel has become synonymous with the beautiful backyard of the Hammond-Harwood House. Currently, the United States Naval Academy is repairing the copper dome of the chapel. The last installation took place in 1929, so almost 100 years ago. The new installation is set to finish this summer. The luster of the bright copper will only last for several weeks before it turns dark brown, and it will take about 20 years before it fades into the familiar green patina Annapolis has known for the last 9 decades. Copper is a unique element, and its benefits have been known for centuries. Next time you admire the kitchen utensils at the Hammond-Harwood House, see the dome at the Naval Academy Chapel, or purchase copper items for your own home, we hope that you will think about its contribution to humankind. Simply put, copper is here to stay, working without assistance 24/7 to keep you safe. So until next time, I hope you enjoyed this post, and there will be more to come.